The rain wasn't just falling, it was punishing the city. It sheeted down my apartment window, turning the evening lights into blurred, weeping smears of color. I was curled on my sofa, a half-read book on my lap, enjoying the cozy solitude. Then, through the drumbeat of the storm, I heard it, a dull, repetitive thud from the apartment next door. Not the usual sounds of movement or muffled music from my neighbor, Jake. This was different. It was the sound of someone methodically, hopelessly, packing cardboard boxes. I knew why. 2 days ago, I'd seen her leave. Chloe. All sharp edges and loud laughter that never quite reached her eyes. She'd marched down the hallway, a designer suitcase rolling behind her like a stubborn pet, not even a backward glance. Jake had stood in his doorway, his tall frame somehow diminished, his usually bright blue eyes hollow. He'd given me a weak, embarrassed wave before softly closing the door. He hadn't come out since. The thudding continued. It was the soundtrack of a life being dismantled. I sighed, putting my book aside. My mum always said I had a fatal flaw for fixing broken things, wounded birds, old radios, people. Jake and I weren't friends, not really. We were hallway acquaintances. A hey, how's it going? Near the mailboxes, an awkward smile if we both happened to be taking out the trash. He was a graphic designer, I think. I wrote copy for a tech startup. Our lives ran on parallel tracks, comfortable in their distance. But the sound of that quiet, desperate packing was too much. I pushed myself up and walked to my kitchen. I had made a huge pot of chili earlier, the kind that was more therapy than cooking. I ladled a substantial portion into a clean container, grabbed a sleeve of saltine crackers from the pantry, and, on a whim, 2 cold beers from the fridge. Fueled by a sudden resolve, I walked out into the hall and stood before his door, number 4B. I knocked. The thudding inside stopped. A long pause, then the door opened just a crack. Jake looked like he'd been through a war. His sandy hair was a mess, his 5 o'clock shadow was well into its second shift, and his worn-out t-shirt had a suspicious stain that might have been salsa or sorrow. He blinked at me, confusion clouding his features. Hey, neighbor, I said, aiming for cheerful but landing somewhere in the vicinity of gentle. I made a volcano of chili and it's threatening to erupt. Thought you might need some tectonic support. I held up the container. He just stared for a moment, then his shoulders slumped, the defensive posture melting into pure exhaustion. He opened the door wider. Yeah, thanks, Sarah. That's really kind. His voice was rough, like he hadn't used it in days. His apartment was a museum of recent heartbreak. Cardboard boxes, half filled with books and records, littered the living room. A single framed photo of him and Chloe on a beach sat face down on the coffee table. The air felt heavy, stale with sadness and the ghost of old arguments. I'm just, sorting some stuff, he mumbled, gesturing weakly at the chaos. Looks like it, I said, moving to his small kitchen island and setting down the food. I brought reinforcements. I placed the beers next to the chili. You eat. I'll make myself useful. Before he could protest, I grabbed a roll of packing tape and started on an open box of books. I didn't speak, just started organizing them roughly by size. The silence was comfortable, filled only by the sound of rain and the rustle of cardboard. Jake watched me for a minute, then sank onto a stool and slowly began to eat. After a few bites, he let out a long, shaky breath, as if he'd been holding it for days. She took the dog, he said suddenly, not looking up from the chili. Rocket, the corgi, said he was happier with her. He liked her better. My heart clenched. A breakup was one thing, a dog napping was a special kind of cruelty. That's low, Jake. I'm really sorry. He just nodded, his spoon clinking against the bowl. That night, we didn't talk much more. I helped him seal a few boxes, and we drank the beers in a quiet, companionable silence. When I left, the overwhelming gloom in the apartment had lifted, just a fraction. Thanks, Sarah, he said at the door, and, this time there was a flicker of genuine warmth in his eyes. Really, that was the beginning. It became an unspoken routine. I'd hear him moving around, often at odd hours, and I'd intervene with food, a dumb movie recommendation, or just my presence. I learned about their relationship in fragments. How they'd met in college, how things had been good until Chloe's job in marketing started demanding more, how they drifted into a cycle of sniping and silence. He showed me the graphic novel series he was designing for, his passion project that Chloe had called a cute hobby. I saw the light return to his eyes when he talked about it. One Saturday, I declared a mandatory break from the cave of sadness. I dragged him to a used record store downtown. He was hesitant, a ghost in his own life, but he came. Amid the dusty vinyl, I saw a glimpse of the old Jake. He got excited about a first edition Bowie album, explaining the significance of the mix to me with animated hands. He bought it, a small, tangible piece of happiness. Later, over greasy diner burgers, he said, I forgot how much I liked this. Just browsing. No agenda. She hated digging through crates. Called it organized hoarding. He paused, playing with his fries. I think I stopped doing a lot of things I liked. Time to start again, I said simply. The help became reciprocal. My bathroom sink started making a gurgling sound from the depths of hell. Jake, it turned out, was surprisingly handy. He showed up with a toolbox, his hair tied back in a short ponytail, and spent an hour dismantling the P-trap. I handed him wrenches and learned more about plumbing than I ever wanted to know. We were a good team. We laughed when a spray of foul water hit him in the cheek. We started cooking together on Sunday nights. He taught me how to make a proper pasta carbonara, and I introduced him to the sacred art of the chocolate chip cookie. My apartment smelled like garlic and baking, sounds of laughter and classic rock replacing the quiet. We were building a friendship, brick by brick, a safe, sturdy structure. One evening, about 6 weeks after the great exit, we were on my couch, watching a terrible sci-fi movie and heckling the bad special effects. The credits rolled, and a comfortable silence settled. Jake swirled the last of his beer. Sarah, he started, his voice uncharacteristically tentative. I don't think I've said it properly. What you did, what you're doing. I was in a really dark place. I didn't know how to get out. You just showed up. You didn't try to fix me. You just were there. You brought chili. He gave a soft laugh. It was the best chili I've ever had. I felt a warmth spread through my chest that had nothing to do with the beer. Anyone would have done it, Jake. No, he said firmly, looking right at me. His blue eyes were clear, focused. They wouldn't have. Chloe leaving, it broke something in me. But you, he hesitated, searching for the words. You made me feel like the pieces could be put back together into something different, something better. The air between us shifted. It was charged, suddenly, with an awareness that had been quietly growing for weeks. The casual touches while cooking, the way our laughter synced, the deep comfort of just sharing space. I looked at him, really looked at him. The sadness was mostly gone, replaced by a quiet strength and a kindness that drew me in. I saw my friend, but in that moment, I saw something more. He must have seen the answer in my eyes. Slowly, giving me every chance to pull away, he leaned in. The kiss was soft, a question. It tasted of beer and hope and the homemade cookies we'd eaten. It was nothing like the frantic, dramatic passion I imagined he'd had with Chloe. It was gentle, real, and it felt like coming home. When we parted, he rested his forehead against mine. Was that okay? He whispered. More than okay, I whispered back. We took it slow. There was no dramatic confession, no sweeping off of feet. We simply transitioned from friends to something deeper, the foundation of our relationship already rock solid from the trials it had been built upon. We told our friends and families, who were universally thrilled. Finally, my best friend Mia had said, rolling her eyes. The whole building could see it. Months later, we decided to move in together, but into a new place, a fresh start that was truly ours. The day we finished packing his apartment, the last box was taped shut. The once depressing space was just an empty shell. Jake stood in the middle of the living room, looking around. He walked over to the coffee table, picked up the face-down photo of him and Chloe. He didn't open it. He simply placed it carefully inside a box marked storage. He turned to me, a smile on his face that was entirely free of shadows. Ready? He asked, holding out his hand. I took it. Ready. Our new apartment was sunny, with space for his drawing tablet and my writing desk. One Saturday, we were unpacking the last of the books. Jake pulled out a small, flat box from a pile of his things. He looked nostalgic, but not sad. I have something for you, he said. I finally finished it. He handed me the box. Inside was a graphic novel, professionally printed. The title was The Chili Code. The artwork was stunning, a stylized cityscape under rain, a glowing apartment window, a woman holding a container that radiated warmth. I flipped through it. It was our story. The lonely neighbor, the thud of boxes, the shared meals, the record store, the plumbing disaster. It was a story about quiet rescue, about the love that builds you up instead of tearing you down. On the dedication page, it read, for Sarah, who brought the chili and saved the story, and for me, who was smart enough to say thank you. Tears welled in my eyes. Jake, this is incredible. It's my passion project, he said, wrapping his arms around me from behind. The one that was just a cute hobby. My agent already has publishers interested. It turns out, the best stories aren't the ones about the dramatic explosions. They are about the quiet moments after, when someone helps you clean up the debris. I leaned back into him, holding the book to my chest. I thought about that first night, the rain, the thudding, my own hesitation at his door. I hadn't set out to fall in love. I had just seen a human being in pain and offered a simple meal. But in that act of